One of the most important lessons that I took away from this book, called The Absent Father Effect on Daughters, in my understanding, is that for anyone suffering from daddy issues, father wounds especially, is that love is interpreted as pain, and pain is interpreted as love. This is quite a revolutionary understanding when navigating borderline personality disorder or behavior that exhibits that nature, especially towards your own romantic interest. However, ever since I discovered the works of Neville Goddard and I started to understand the law of assumption, which is really just the law of consciousness, diagnosing a person analytically in this way doesn't necessarily help resolve this person that you're seeing, because it is also the fact that you are seeing the person in this way, very similar to avoidant attachment style. If we were to treat someone as a mirror, that would mean to us that they are, through that lens, a mirror to us. And we see ourselves in the mirror. And we see things in that person that we either disapprove of or we approve of. We are judgmental towards the person in front of us. And instead of molding the clay from what we see it, we judge the clay as it is. We come up with these stories and we react in these ways like, I'm going to give you space. Or you try to be firm and impose yourself upon your romantic interest by saying you're either going to hammer down on the relationship without their consent, or you're going to threaten to leave them, or you yourself actually act hot and cold as a response to their hot and cold behavior, tit for tat. And sure, maybe this person has some areas in their life that they need to resolve, but is that really inside your locus of control? Matthew 7, 3-5, I think, says that if you want to help someone who has a splinter in their eye, then you have to remove the splinter that is in your eye. And if we look at that from the point of criticism, that's just pretty basic. I got to solve my problems first before I can solve your problems. Or the other aspect is, hey, don't bother fixing my problems, fix your own first before you try and help me. But if we look through the esoteric lens, we can find a different interpretation of that scripture, in the sense that the only reason we see a splinter in that other person at all to begin with is because we actually have a splinter in our own eye. Remember, if we can look at this person as if they are our mirror, they are showing us that we ourselves have a splinter. And if we have a splinter, is that really how we see ourselves? Because if there's something happening, if there's a pattern emerging, father wound stuff, though the father wound stuff may be true, what's to say that really prevents a relationship from emerging? I don't think it does. What is really preventing the relationship from coming into fruition is the way you see yourself and the way you see the other party. It's how you respond. And how you respond sets the stage moving forward. Do we even realize how we're responding? How we respond comes from deep within. We are a faceless, formless awareness. And so to look at the mirror, per se, it's actually kind of challenging, because people say, go look in the mirror, as if that's supposed to nail down a point. But to look at your own soul, what can you really use as a mirror to reflect back to you your own soul? The only instruments that I know of are the Bible and the esoteric lens of looking at everything else around you as if it is your mirror, your own psyche. And I've got some hacks too, my own personal hacks that I've used. Questions, those are not for sale yet. These hacks, these questions have helped me tremendously transcend from looking at my own romantic interest even, who, we are cool and awesome. I no longer see this person as broken. I no longer see, despite the sins, despite our bed sheets being stained with red, right? We can, with the power of God, we forgive all that. We turn those sheets as white as snow. It would not be possible to forgive by means of analytics, only by means of creation. Because with the law of assumption, or essentially the law of consciousness, your manifestation is consciousness, because consciousness is the spring from which manifestation emerges. If you see yourself as a martyr, trying to, and you see the other person as someone who is wounded, and you go by the narrative that love is pain and pain is love, it's like, yes, it can make sense as to why a person has been exhibiting chaotic and toxic behaviors in their past. But that does not necessarily define them. It is not something that is set in stone. It can be changed, but it can only be changed if you change. You change the way you see them, you change the way you see the clay, and you mold the clay completely differently, and you change your own clay primarily. If there was constant rejection, perhaps you rejected yourself. If there was neglect, perhaps you neglected yourself. If there was a third party, perhaps you felt like that you were not inherently chosen. These feelings emerge not after the fact. They preceded the manifestation. I remember when I used to be single and live in my father's house and sleep on the couch. Now that is not the case. You declare this feeling and you know this to be true before it even emerges as a hardened fact. When you put someone on a pedestal, be mindful from the position where you're looking at them. Are you looking from below, placing them somewhere where you cannot really reach them anymore? Or are you accepting the fact that you are a desirable being by default, and you live life this way, accepting this fact, and you simply place your romantic interest on a pedestal beside you, and you're just kind of looking at them from the side? You don't see them as this chaotic mess. You don't see them as this person who's got daddy issues, because if you accept this as true of them, then so shall they continue to exhibit that.